Hi there and welcome to my video. In this video I will show you how to color and shade in Procreate. This, as you can see, the line work I executed on another video, on a previous video. So this is a continuation of that. I'm working on in Procreate on an iPad Pro 12.9 inch. So first off, I'll just look at the layer setup. I have a line layer, and then I added some, shading to accentuation to the line above it, and then the rough line, the rough sketch I turned off. So what I want to do is want to add another layer in between, underneath the line work. And what I am going to do is lay in a flat skin tone. This is a painting brush that I created, like an all-purpose oval. Basically the shape is just basically an oval, sort of a fuzzy oval with some textures on the edges. I like to work with the azimuth, which is the orientation of the pencil. So I have that turned on, and so it will actually be in this angle. So if wherever I draw, it would follow the orientation of the pencil. So I'll pick this skin tone. So it's always good to have your hand on the left side of the tablet, so you can, especially with painting brushes that have no size dynamic, so you can adjust the size. As you can see, if I tap it, it follows the size of the orientation of the Apple Pencil. So if I want to cover a large area, I use the flat, wide end of it. So I go side to side like this to get a good coverage. I also turn up the opacity so I can fill it in pretty easily. The whole point of this is to cover it quickly and accurately. So again, you can adjust the size of it by just adjusting it with your hand here. If you wanted to get into corners like the tip of the finger, you hold the Apple Pencil this way instead of this way, so you get the narrow end of the oval in there. And it's not necessary to go crazy with the size options here. So again, it's I think I mentioned before on the it's the same as in Photoshop. You can do the same with the pen tilt, but there is this 60 art brush that I really like in Photoshop, which you basically just twist the barrel of the stylus and actually rotates the brush. But this is quite gotten used to it actually. So now that I'm on the Procreate more on the iPad. So there, I'm not going to go crazy with the accuracy there. So we want to open up a shading layer above it. I'm going to choose a darker color here, and so I'm going to use a shading brush, but I don't want to have to go try to follow the line too accurately, because especially when I have sort of I've done it once already. So all I have to do is tap the base layer and tap on select, and then go back to the top shading layer. And you can see they've created a mask here, so it masks out the background. Basically all the pixels that are on this layer creates a mask which masks out the transparent part of that layer, so you don't have to do things twice. So I'm going to use another painting brush. And basically, when you create brushes, you can put them anywhere. These are just random folders. They're named, but I'm thinking that painting brushes don't have a size dynamic because they're more about shading. I think of it like there's a certain amount of dynamic in the stylus, and if you turn off the size, then a lot of it the dynamic of the brush goes, like the pressure dynamic goes towards the shading rather than the size. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm going to increase the size of the brush and keep it about here, lower the opacity so I can do more fine shading. This brush has a more textured end to it, which is the tip of it, and then a more heavier part. There's more ink on the bottom part of it. So if I hold it like this, the you know, I want a gradated sort of look or shading or of this wrist here. I don't have to go crazy going over it a few times. I can get it in a couple of strokes or even one stroke. Gives it a little more immediacy, I think. I always like you know, drawings that look like they're effortless. You know, like even though maybe they took a lot of effort to create it, it has an effortless look to it where it doesn't look overworked. And you tend to, if you go over it too many times, as in traditional art, oops, that's too much. As in traditional art, it tends to look overworked. And the beauty of working digitally is that if it looks overworked, you just go back, redo it, do practice strokes until you get it right, and then keep the last one. So you can rotate the canvas with your two fingers here until you get the right angle that you want. You can, again, I kind of liken it to sculpting in a way. You're sculpting each layer. You can go back, and if something doesn't look right, you can erase out sections. I want to get that tendon here, sort of. So it's like sculpting each layer in a way, except you're sculpting pixels. Yeah, so if you did too much here, you take some back. I mean, this don't need too much sculpting here, but things like the face, you know, more complicated sort of images, you probably want to do more of that. So if I want to add a little like sheen or highlight to the hand there, or like say right here and on the knuckle, I would just go back to the base layer. I mean, you can open up another highlighting layer, but probably not necessary for this one. Just go right here, reduce the size. It's probably a little too. There you go. I'm going to turn off the selection mask by clicking on this. I don't know, this is an S or something. And I'm going to open up a layer underneath the base layer to add a sort of a non-script background there. I like this brush for laying in textured background just because I like the look of it. I think it's actually included with Procreate. But I did some modification, like I added the turned on azimuth and turned off the size. It's basically like a sponge, like a sponge you use to do a wall or something. I'm going to do a darkish brown, reddish background. Increase the size. So, add a little darkness in the center here. As you can see, I missed a few times here on the edges here, so I can just go back with the eraser with a finer sketching brush. and just take out. Thinking I have to turn off the shading layer so I can see it, get a better look at it. Probably should have done this at the beginning so that I don't have to adjust the that shading layer as well. Or you can flatten it. If you can flatten this as you go if you're pretty happy with it. I don't know, I work in advertising and I keep everything in layers just because there are so many changes involved. So say if there's a change to the say the color of the skin or something, and they want it to look like the Hulk or make it green, you can easily actually change the color of this by doing that selection. And then I'm going to open up a new layer so you can fill it up with green. So we just fill that layer, you see, and then I would change the shading. I'd do a selection of that layer, turn it off, and then I'd choose a darker green. And then fill that layer with the new shading, right? So you can change colors very easily. I'm gonna delete that here. So it looks weird. Great. Not a perfect drawing, but thanks very much for watching my video, and please subscribe, like, and comment if you appreciate it. Thanks very much.